Okay, through the medium of video, which will record the process of my making a drawing, what you should see at the moment in front of you is a blank white surface plane, which is actually white laminated cardboard, thin white laminated
And
cardboard.
I have to squeeze into here with a second voice recording.
That's as much as you see. What I see, in order to make the video at all, is firstly
to explain certain points, certain errors in the video.
an imploded, sort of semi-transparent rectangle.
The first
here.
case being that the camera is ranged slightly too far to the left of the lens
About
goggles,
this width
so the thing's not quite centered.
of the action
image
cam,
is not quite centered.
which is in front of me, attached to a sort of clear plastic industrial lens goggles, behind which are my glasses that I need to wear. But the point is, you don't see this. This is what I see. It's not what you see.
But this idea of intervention in the recording,
So this is, in a sense, my motif.
with a second recording,
The imploded
is for me not uninteresting.
rectangle, thin rectangle, blurred rectangle,
What I'm looking
out
for,
of focus rectangle of the
right here and now,
action cam. And if I draw around it,
are gaps in my speech.
from exactly where I'm looking at the moment, this is the lower part of it.
And in the gaps in the
And
speech,
the top, moving my eyes up without moving my head, it's around about here.
I'm correcting the mistakes
Apart from that
I feel I've made in the video.
Inside the lens goggles, I've painted an orange rim, which is actually my glasses, which I can hardly see at all, are pale orange, sort of UV protected pale orange filter. So I've sort of mimicked the orange of the glasses by painting orange around the rim of the
Now,
lens
while the
goggles.
ranging of the camera to the left is a main problem, the drawing itself actually goes well enough for me to want to keep this video clip. And of course this video clip in relation to the drawing can only happen once.
And believe it or not, from exactly where I'm sitting, if I draw around, if I trace around what I can see, the horizontal dimension of the lens goggles are about this size. And if I look up here, actually I can never see the top of the lens goggles because I need to look up to look. I can't see from here. I look up to look, brings the top of the action cam around here. And I look down again, down again, down again, down again. Can bring it as far down as here. From this position, if I look to my right, out of what feels very like the corner of my left eye only,
And I mean here the corner of my right eye only.
the curve of the lens goggles is coming down here.
I mean, this is an important correction. I mean my right eye
Somehow
only.
or other, I also take in what I think is the curve of my nose.
And again, because of the lens distortion, you cannot see much of what I'm doing on the right some of the time.
Curve of nose. If I look this way,
Here again,
if I look this way, okay,
I'm about to make an error which I need to correct.
the left edge of the action cam is about here. fairly distinct. But by looking to the left, I'm looking to the left side of my nose, and of course I'll never find it because I'm left eye dominant.
Okay, this is okay.
So this means that my left eye is subservient to my right eye.
But this is wrong.
And it's as if
It should be that my left eye is dominant to my right eye, not subservient to my right eye.
my viewing is always from the left, ushered in to the right.
I do feel that I see through the left eye
from here,
only.
for example, okay, the edge of the action cam is still in position. If I look to my right,
if you don't already know it and you check this out for yourself,
the curve of my nose is now here.
You could either be left eye or right eye dominant or central focus.
And if I look up to my right,
you'd only notice anything
the curve of the rim of the lens goggles,
if you had either left or right eye dominance.
There's a lot going on in here, in this section, but it's like X-ray. It's like X-ray imagery. I can partially see through it.
I think left eye dominance has only been an issue with me for a short time.
From here,
I don't think I started out with left eye dominance.
This is now the right hand.
But it's an interesting phenomenon with something like drawing.
Edge of the action cam. And for some reason, which I can't really work out, the right edge always has a red iridescence. I don't know where this comes from. The left-hand edge doesn't have it. But there are two things about this. I'll go back here again to since I'm wanting to make a drawing out of this, the edge of the lens goggles again. There are two things about this, important things for the activity and for the kind of drawing that's taking shape. One is movement. In order to go back to this, for example, I need to find it. I need to overlap my view of the action cam, align it with the edge of the drawing. While I'm still unfixed in position, this is correct. But the moment I move, it moves along with me. It's now not only moved, but it's changed. That same edge has changed its angle. So I'm acknowledging that I'm a moving entity, and the motifs, static to my face, are moving with me. And I'm registering the entities. I'm registering the objects only, and so the objects.
Okay, here I might have spoken better in terms of tools.
Along with my head.
The action cam and the lens goggles are so close to my face.
I come back to the centre.
But they're more like tools.
The second thing
aiding my perception.
Difference
and
the cooperation between central
tools enabling me to notice my perception more.
Vision.
As opposed to objects to be drawn.
Now these two things,
although of course they're drawn as well,
they're features of visual perception. it's biological, physiological stuff that's going on in my eyes and in my cognition, in my mind-based mental awareness and understanding of what I'm doing, which are features of perception. These features of perception become tied up with observation. They're necessary in order for me to observe. So what I'm hoping, that I'm suggesting I'm doing, I can't say clearly and precisely and for sure, what I'm suggesting that I'm doing is observing aspects of my perception.
And these aspects of perception are not often noticed.
I can't say
we use them without noticing.
It's the whole of my perception, but it's aspects of it. And the reason these motifs, these objects,
and of course I'm talking about visual perception,
the action cam and the lens goggles,
rather than other kinds of sensory experience.
Rim, the reason these objects are useful in relation to considering perception is that they're very, very close to my eyes. They're so close to my eyes that I can't see them distinctly. The action cam is a blurred black shape that conceals things that you can see that I can't see. So, for example, if I consider that the middle point of it is here, at this moment in time I can't see what I'm doing. I can see here, I can see here. And do you know, I'm focusing on where this point possibly is. And here are actually peripheral to my vision. So I'm looking at these 2 points out of the corners of my eyes. This is how close peripheral vision can be to central focus. It can actually even be closer than this, but for where I'm looking, this is close enough. Okay, if I say my peripheral vision is here and here, I think you can understand it. You can understand, well, yeah, you can see how he's focusing here, and to the right and left, he's seeing out of the corners of his eyes. But I'm telling you that peripheral vision can be as close to the point, to the center of focus as this and this. I find this quite remarkable. It's an aspect of perception which we use, peripheral vision we use very unconsciously. We're hardly aware of it. As soon as something catches our attention, we are likely to, so for example, if I say this orange rim is catching my attention, I look towards it. But because the objects, the motifs, are fixed to my face, this point has now moved across here somewhere. I'm no longer aligning this mark making with the edge of the lens goggles, because it's shifted. So this is at present, this is my point of focus. Moved from here to here. And in my peripheral vision is the action cam. In order to trace it, I need to move my point of focus here.
If you feel that there's maybe a lot of repetition in what I'm saying,
either side is here. And in my peripheral vision, I can see this point.
This is in accordance with the nature of drawing.
You can see that I have to move my head.
Drawing does involve repetition, revisiting, reworking.
Come back down to the
whatever the issues are.
I'm making this drawing in order
for the drawing to
explain
develop.
to you some of the features of perception. And in the process of explaining the features, I'm making the drawing.
But in this instance,
so for me,
you're hearing the repetition.
A drawing can be made up of this mark making, which is very abstract. It's kind of visualizing thinking, it's visualizing information, visualizing instructions and so on. And I'm combining this with writing. It's the kind of thing you might do if, somebody stops you in the street to ask for directions and you start gesticulating with your hand and pointing with your finger. This is like, in a sense, it's like drawing in space. If the person has a map with them or a notepad, you might actually draw a map, a diagram, or indicate on the map. This is also a form of drawing. To my mind, it's a form of drawing. What I kind of need at this point to develop the drawing as much as anything is maybe some black ink. For example, this is the edge of the action cam. More precisely, it's now here. Now to do this, I need to follow with my eyes, I need to follow up and down the edge of the action cam. But to get to the top, I actually never get to the top, because in looking for the top, and my head moving, looking up, the edge of the action cam is moving up. So it will come eventually to the edge of the page. Now, I can't see the width of the black mark that I've made, because it's hidden behind the action cam. But what I'm aware of is that this side of the action cam is much less distinct.
You're also hearing probably quite a bit of background sound in this video.
Again, I can't see what I'm doing. It's hidden.
Again, I can't control this.
Behind or in front.
But it strikes me that it's rather like the runs of the ink, which are equally uncontrollable.
While I'm doing this, out of the corner of my eye, okay, I can see my nose, the curve of my nose. I can also
equally the paraphernalia in the studio that you see to the left or right as I move my head.
I can also see a blueness. If I focus in on, this is the edge of the action cam again. If I focus in on this, somehow or other the blueness disappears. So if I look across to this,
what I've just said I think is quite interesting in a way, that the truly automatic
sense of blueness comes back.
Autonomous elements of the medium are rather like the uncontrollable noises and so on in the background.
And it's just around here. Except I might say that there's some sort of a sense of the blue actually inside this blurred, indistinct edge. But of course these dermatograph pencils, which are designed for working on glass and plastic and so on, won't work as well on the wet ink. This is a sense in which one has to work with the behaviour of the medium. And this is something which I find also very interesting about drawing, that you can only really, there's a sense that you have to work within the freedoms and constraints offered by the medium. So there's a degree of autonomy to the medium, such as this that's happened here, these spills, ink spills, or runs. This is to do with the autonomy of the medium. There's a sense with the pencil, like all pencils, that if you want to increase the strength of it, you work constantly over the top. Here, for example, situation slightly more brown. Around here, which is actually this is actually the frameless lens of my glasses, the right-hand lens of my glasses, which is slightly blue, has a slight blueness to it. But back to this question of autonomy of the medium. I mean, there's a sense that this is what this kind of pencil does. So, in a sense, this is the pencil's autonomy. I can get this kind of quality out of it, because this is what it'll do for me. I can speak in those terms of the medium doing for me. Back again to this red irradiation of the action cam, the left-hand edge of the action cam. Whereas the ink will do something else freely enough. That, in relation to the width of the brush, the quality of the brush, and so on, kind of bristles, are all to do with the autonomy of the medium. And you work for or against that. In trying to get this blue to go onto this black, see, it works better now because the ink is more dry. In trying to get it to work on the ink, I have to accept certain restrictions, certain reluctance to behave in the way I want it to. And I've actually nearly said as much as I want to or can say about this. I mean, what I could do now is to continue to develop the drawing, but that would involve me in silence. The other thing about this is that, which I think is a very useful exercise for anybody to do, is that in speaking into a microphone, in speaking my thoughts about how I'm working, what I'm doing, I'm distracting myself from the drawing. So that again can either be seen as too much of a limitation for you to want to work with, for one to want to work with, or it can be considered to open up a different kind of medium within which to work. So this cross-reference or interplay between drawing and speaking. I think when I listen back to this monologue, it's going to be very broken up. My speech patterns are fairly, what they call, I forget the word.
The word I need is disfluency.
There's a word for when one's speech is fairly broken, fairly disjointed.
So speech disfluency.
My speech is fairly like this anyway, but even more so when I'm involved in this kind of activity, because my focus on the drawing is disrupting and interrupting what I'm trying to say. And equally, what I'm trying to say is disrupting and interrupting
And all the way through the second recording, I've been intervening
the
in
process
gaps,
of drawing.
in my speech
What I'm doing
pattern,
now, by the way, is I'm looking at
looking very
the
precisely
fading out of the black
for the gaps
of the action cam to the right-hand side,
in the speech pattern.
and I'm reversing the situation. So
And those gaps
I'm painting with tone up to
are actually
the lightest kind of tone of the edge of the action cam before it peters out and joins the white of the paper.
where I'm most
So
focusing on the
this
drawing.
side here is the lightest tone of the action cam before it becomes the white of the paper. And I think I'm going to stop at that.